So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to District 4. My name is Alex. Here to. I just messed up completely. Welcome to District 4, to the point for information news. I'm your host, Alev. Just went all in on some extra. It's been a long day for me, so you'll hear me stumble a lot. You'll hear me trip up a lot. But I think this is an interesting enough subject for me to sort of go in and take care of it kind of immediately. This is going to go with the information part of the channel and a little bit of news too, but just more informational speaking. I like to, when I learn things and I get information that I haven't had before or extended amounts of information, come in and share it with my people. With my peeps, because I think in doing so, it gives you growth. And, we've covered quite a few subjects on here, quite a few news stories and articles. And I think it helps to share information because in turn you guys actually give me some back, and I do like that. I like that we have sort of this sort of back and forth where we're sharing information with each other, and then sometimes I'm corrected. Somebody asked me, did they mind that they did that? And I absolutely do not. I think that this is a great place for open discussions and debates. And I don't have to agree with what you're saying in order to respect it, and you don't have to agree with what I'm saying in order to respect it. So I do like that. I do appreciate that. I'm never mad when someone, even when you call me out, sometimes you guys call me out, let me know what's going on. And I take that with the deepest amount of gratitude and thanks. So having said that, let's go into what the subject is actually going to be. So we're going to talk about. So there's things that, so many people simply don't understand the rights that they are guaranteed to them under the Constitution, and how these rights impact the level of compliance that is required when they interact with law enforcement, and then what to do when, approached by police officers. And I think there are plenty of laws that are misunderstood or completely unknown by the general population, but by educating yourself, you can protect yourself and your rights during the interactions with the police and other law enforcement agents. And if you find yourself in a situation where you have been placed under arrest, or tell the police you are arresting your, or tell the police that you are like asserting your right to remain silent, something like that, to speak to a lawyer, then all of these types of things. You should kind of go in there understanding a little bit more than what you're maybe given on a regular basis. And I say that because a lot of times you will hear somebody just start throwing out, you don't have a right to do this, and you don't have a right to do that. And if it's not solid, or you're misunderstanding or misinterpreting what you're hearing, then it's not going to count. They will still arrest you. They will still, give you a ticket or whatever they're planning on doing, because it might be overridden by other laws. You may volunteer to do something and didn't know you volunteered to do it. A lot of times when people don't give their right to remain silent, it starts from the minute the police officer will approach you. So you're going all in like a Karen, for example, and your rights are, and you're sort of telling the police officer what your rights are, not even taking into consideration what his rights are. And you miss every time. And sometimes you volunteer to allow something to happen just by you doing one thing or another. Say, for example, if you are, the police officer warns you that he's going to arrest you if you do, one more thing. And you might, say something like, take me to jail then. Okay, well, then that's probably what he's going to do. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to keep these things into perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 solid things we're going to talk and discuss amongst ourselves. Hi, welcome you guys. Thank you for joining. We are talking, for those, everybody's filing in. I usually start talking before we start filing. We're talking about things that police officers you just assume they have a right to do because they do it all the time. But in reality, you've probably volunteered to do these things. In some way, shape, or form, you have volunteered to have this happen when you didn't exercise your right to remain silent and you overspoke or you just got angry and just said for them to do something. So I'm going to try to help to clarify for some people that are throwing terms out there. Also, it's kind of irritating for the police officer, I'm sure, for people just be throwing out laws. It's irritating to anybody working in the legal field. You just hear people throwing out laws just inappropriately. Or they don't fit, or you're not understanding the complete law, and you're just kind of throwing something out there. And it really ends up interfering with the investigative part of the police officer's job. So once you do that, you have broken a law, trying to tell him what his law is, but being incorrect in saying so. And because of that, you end up getting arrested. Okay. So I'm trying to help everybody out so that we just make these stops a little better, a little more safer. Just these approaches with the police officers to help everybody so that people can stop doing that. And particularly, Karen type personalities. And I'm not just saying only them, but they have a tendency to throw out laws, or somebody that thinks they understand a law and they don't. And the minute you do that, once again, it's an interference. Once you interfere, other laws apply. You follow what I'm saying? Hi, you guys. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you guys filing in. Got a good subject matter here. Some good content. And we're gonna exercise it and talk about it. So I see some new people filing in. Thank you, all of the new people that have been subscribing and filing in and reposting things, and a lot of you have been doing that already, but I love the newer people. I wanted to give them some rep because they act like I don't rep them enough. The new people are like, hey, you always rep the people that are always there. You don't hardly say anything to a lot of us coming in here that are new. So I want to tell you that I appreciate you guys too. Welcome to the district portal family. But the portal's the portal. They've been with me for too long. So, I'm obviously going to always, they interact because they know how to interact here. They've been here. So feel free to speak. Jump in. For those of you that are new, comments face me on purpose. They face me because I don't want, first of all, people to be embarrassed or belittled for saying something. I don't want people arguing inappropriately. And I also, if you're way out of line, I have to block it. So I don't want to. And I will tell you always, if you're just blocked, I didn't do that. Or if, there's some complications with you getting in, that's not me. If I'm going to block you, I will warn you first. You know what? If you keep talking like that, you can't be in here. That's not the type of place to do that here. We don't do that here on this channel. And then I will, if you continue, then I will block you. But for the most part, sometimes I'll say I block people, but I'm joking. Like, especially if you're talking about my sports teams, I stay blocking people. Everybody's like, "Yep, yeah, but you're still here, so I didn't actually block you." I stay threatening to block people if you're talking about my team all the time. So you'll just to get you guys used to how the format here is a little slightly different than most other people's formats. Also, yes, I do videos there. I do tape a lot of times on occasion, probably more than I have been doing lives, but I have been nursing my lives lately because it allows me to be anywhere and also to do other things while I'm actually on here. So I stay busy, so you know that I can be, I try to use my time wisely. So this was allowing me to do that, but I will be doing some videos soon, of course. All right. Good. Everybody, I see some thumbs up going on. Nice. Thank you. Yes. Thanks for explaining that. You were wondering where the people were. There's people here. We just, the comments stayed towards me. I did that when I literally was having, like, what do they call them? Trolls. Trolls were coming in, and I was like, oh, come on. Like, we're not doing that here. We're going to talk about some serious stuff. We're going to really make it more of a debating type of a scenario than we want to have, this sort of waste of time type of comments type of thing. Welcome. Thank you. Hey, I knew you were coming because you are really big on the notification bell. So, yeah. Welcome, welcome. All right, you guys, let's get started. Um, Thank you, Rolo. Rolo said saw me before and he was glad to be here today. That's very nice of you. I appreciate you. Is that Rolo? Is that pronounced right, Rollo? Rollo. I'm sorry, Rollo. All right, so the first one, number one, is we are talking, for those of you that are filing in, we are talking about laws that are assumed or perceived that a police officer has that he actually does not have. But you usually volunteer, and then that's how they're able to do it. Okay, so number one is source. My source comes from a legal team. It's the Williams team, criminal law. Uh, so it's that law firm. Okay. Okay, so number one is your phone number is private. Okay. Unless the police have a warrant or give you consent to allow the police to look through your phone, you give consent. Okay. Now I'm going to say it again. Your cell phone is private unless the police have a warrant or you give consent to allow the police to look through your phone. They do not have the right to look through the contents of your phone, even when you are in custody. So let's be careful with this one first, right? In the U.S. Supreme Court case of Riley versus California, Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority, stated that because, now I'm citing the source for this law because I want you to know that I'm legit here and I'm not just telling you random stuff. Okay, now the site is this. Digital data stored on a phone cannot itself be used as a weapon to harm an arresting officer or to effectuate the arrestee's escape. There is no immediate need for the police officer to search the contents of your phone. Okay? That's Riley versus California. Okay, so in that, as a fancy way of saying, because I was trying to slow down so I could interpret the legal fancy way of saying that, but it's basically just saying, unless you've done something like escape where they have to track you down, unless just the digital data in and of itself. It just can't be used as anything. So it's not really a threat, so to speak, to the police officer. Unless it's facilitating some sort of legal thing. So you take off running and you drop your cell phone, for example, and the cell phone is left open to find you, the police can look at the contents. Otherwise, they cannot. So if you're stopped, you're a regular citizen. I'm speeding. Woo! Please pull me over. And I'm in there. Even if he suspects, he will do something like this. He or she will say, "Is it okay if I look through your cell phone?" Or we're going to be able to look through your cell phone. He'll say it in a way that'll get you to say yes, and you'll say yes, you can, and then you just gave consent, so therefore it was legal. Now, this does not mean make your life harder by resisting. Because if you go in and say, it's not my legal right, and you start yelling and he says, wait, hold on a minute. You're like, no, I'm not holding on a minute. I'm not. Now you're interfering, and that's a whole nother set of laws. So you will get arrested at that. And it's not because he couldn't look in your cell phone. It's because you're interfering with him trying to get stuff done. But if you very just clearly state, I understand what you're saying. I don't want to interfere, but I do know that that my cell phone data is private and I don't have to give it to you. And I would rather not do that if I don't have to. It's something like that. But if you're going all in and threatening them and spitting on them and pushing, then of course he's just going to arrest you. Because that has nothing to do with anything. Now you've just created a whole nother set of problems that have nothing to do with your cell phone. And then you're going to run in there and tell the judge, he went through my cell phone because I was telling him, she's going to say, but you resisted. He or she, the judge, is going to be like, but you were resisting arrest at that point. You were interfering with an investigation at that point. They're going to tell you whatever the law is that you were breaking by acting belligerent. Okay. Questions come. Nobody knew that. Didn't know that. Didn't know that. Did. Very rarely do police officers ask to go through your cell phone. You would really have to be doing something like crazy. But if they do ask, let's just say it's not a legit cop for whatever reason, you can very politely say that you will not do that at this time. Police cannot enter your residence without a warrant. Many people know this, but don't understand it. Okay, except in the certain rare circumstances, okay? Such as if they see evidence of illegal activity, police cannot enter your home without your consent or a warrant. Now, this is not to be misunderstood, okay? Don't want you guys to misunderstand this. It does not mean that if the police officer knows there's drug activity there, suspects there's drug activity, sees drug paraphernalia in the background, and tells you they need to come into your house, you go into resisting arrest. No, because he's now at that point, he or she can see that there's clear illegal activity happening. So you can say no all day long, he's going in there. He or she is going in there. Because at that point, it's a part of their investigation. Now they have something to show they had a need to go in the house. Do you understand? So please, if you are doing some illegal stuff and the police officer is like, hey, there's gang activity here. We recognize that there's drugs here. There's ex-gang members that are sitting there. And they say, we need to enter the house. Go ahead and resist if you want to, but you're going to jail. You have to have a warrant. You can't come in here without, and there's clearly like money on the side. There's, rolled up quarters and, there's like a bunch of stuff that looks like there's something going on in that. If you're a domestic violence case and the woman's sitting down there, her eyes black, she's leaned over and you're holding the door closed, trying to get the police not to see her. And you're like, hey, you can't enter my house without, and the police is in there. Clearly there's a domestic violence situation going on, a possible domestic violence situation coming in. And they need to go in and see if she's okay. So it makes sense if you're just a regular citizen and, I don't know, you called because there's homeless people on the street or something. And they don't have a right to just go in and start searching your house. You know what I mean? And there has to be clear evidence. So if there's no evidence, technically speaking, and you are doing illegal activity and it's not known, it's not obvious, it's not, then the police are probably not going to come in there anyway. They're not going to request to search your house anyway. More than likely, they're not going to do that. They're usually going to do it if it's somebody that they suspect or there's something evident that shows there's some sort of illegal activity. Okay, so anybody says this all the time. You hear criminals all the time. Like, you can't come in here. Oh, you can't just come in my house. You can't just search my house. You can't search. And they start going all in and the police keep going anyway. It's because of that. It's because that part of it is legal. It's not legal just to search your house without a search warrant because there's no reason to search it without a search warrant. If there's no suspected illegal activity, there's no reason for the police to go in there and search your house. So I want you to clarify. I wanted to clarify that as an understanding. So you don't just start throwing out laws and not knowing what the heck you're talking about. Because if you just say, you can't search my house, and he or she has clearly have evidence, what you're going to do is add to the charges you already have, and they're still going to search the house. Right? You hear people, the SWAT team kicks your door in and you're like, you can't be in here. And the SWAT team's completely ignoring you because in order for the SWAT team to be there, you've done something. They not only suspect, it's highly likely that you probably did something to get it to that point. So they're probably not listening to you. You might as well remain silent. Let them finish searching it. They're probably going to arrest you at that. Okay. But a regular citizen, you open the door and it's clearly you have been smoking something and it's not legal in the state, they're going to search your house. They're going to search your house if it looks like you've been intoxicated, on drugs, smoking, doing something to see if there's illegal activity going on with, Are there other illegal drugs in the house? So you can get searched under those types of circumstances, if that makes sense. Questions, comments? They can, so someone says, so they can't search your cell phone. They cannot. Data in and of itself, what does it say here? It says digital data stored on a cell phone cannot itself be used as a weapon to harm an arresting officer. Okay? It cannot. So because of that, what is the purpose of going through your cell phone? There isn't one. So, this. Okay? And for the police cannot enter your residence without a warrant. Please note the exception. Okay. Evidence of illegal activity. Okay. The rare circumstances. But in general, most of the time, that's not going on, right? So they're not going to just start searching your house. And if somebody did, that's not legal at that point. But it would be an illegal search by a cop that's being, kind of crooked. I don't know why they would be searching your house. Doesn't make sense. Maybe they just didn't know you understood. But if you understand that and you know how to use it, you will discover more than likely they're not going to search your house without a warrant anyway. They might look through it just to make sure there's no one else in the house. They do ask you first, is there someone else in the house besides you? Because they're not supposed to be roaming around searching. They'll ask you, do you mind if I look around? That's what those questions come from. It's not because they think you're doing something. It's because they want to just make sure they're safe because there's nobody else in the house. And also to be able to just kind of see if everything's, if there's no illegal activity going on, basically. Number 3 is going to be like, oh, of course they can't, but they always do. Okay. Police officers can lie to you about having evidence. You're like, what the heck did you just say? Okay. Police officers, okay, can lie to you about having evidence. Police officers are allowed to lie about the evidence they have, such as your DNA evidence at a scene of a crime, to try to get you to confess. Courts have repeatedly held that deliberate deception by law enforcement is fair, as long as it is unlikely to result in a false confession. Now, first of all, many of you are like floored at the fact that they actually can lie. Because somebody said once, I don't know who started this, but somebody said, if you're an undercover cop, you have to tell me. And you're like, you might hear a police officer, it depends on the circumstance, right? Because he's able to lie. So it might depend on the circumstances. If he thinks it's going to lead to a confession, he can flat out lie to you. Now, that's to say he's running around lying, but it's the fact that it leads to a confession. So make sure you understand the clarity of what he's lying about. Okay, so let's just say in an interrogation room, for example, or if you got stopped by the police and they search your car for DNA evidence or something. I don't know. That's probably not a good example. Let me give a better example. If they can tell you that so and so confessed already. They named you as one of the suspects. They told us that, and the person probably never said that. The person could have been completely silent. But if it leads you to say, okay, yes, I was there, bam, it's legal. And I heard people like, oh, he lied and told me, that so-and-so said this and blah, blah, blah. That was never said. And it's not going to matter at all to the judge because he got the confession, and that was the point of he or she as a police officer doing that. So they were being deceptive. They were not telling you the truth because you're a criminal and they needed you to confess to what you were doing. So the misconception that they have to suddenly tell you the truth once you discover they're a police officer is a Hollywood myth. That is not really true. To a certain extent, right? It's not really true like that. Look at people going in. What the heck? What the hockey sticks? Really? I'm reading comments. Crazy. Insanity. Makes sense. Someone always says makes sense because you kind of get it, right? Picture yourself in that situation. That's true. I would probably be like, hey, get the confession. Confessions do not have to be in writing. Of course not. Does it matter if they gave you a plea deal? What do you mean it doesn't matter if they gave you a plea deal? You meaning that they told you an untruth to get the plea deal? Plea deal is completely separate. So a plea deal is you giving up information and say, for example, they may give you immunity because of it, or they give you something, a lesser sentence. That's the plea. The plea is you're not going in, you're going in more as a witness, and so they're going to make a deal with you so that you could give up evidence for the case or a person. Maybe they have, maybe you're not as important as the person they're really trying to get. Or you didn't do as much of the crime as the person that actually committed the main crime, for example. Something like that. Yes, they do. They can. Absolutely. Cray. Hey, don't kill the messenger. I'm just saying. I did not make that legal. It is just legal. They are allowed to do that if it gets a confession for you. Well, I mean, there would be no other. Somebody's asking what other reason would they be lying. There's no other reason to lie. What are they lying to you for? They're police officers. They don't have to. They have to get things because it's part of the investigation. If you happen to confess based on what they're telling you, it's because they knew you were. They pretty much know you're guilty at this point. They know you did something or you did more than what you're saying. So they need, in order to get the investigation, to do what their job is, they have to get you to say what it is. It's like they have that hunch. They know they need that extra piece there. So if you think of it in that sense, it makes perfect sense. Right? Comments go, no, it doesn't. You think a police officer should tell the truth to a criminal who is also lying? Why should he get penalized legally for lying to somebody that's probably lying to them? If you look at it that way, it makes sense why it would be legal for them to lie. It doesn't make any sense. This criminal is not telling you the truth, and you know they're not, especially if they're guilty. They're not going to turn around and tell you they're guilty. So they have to be able to play the game so that they can get that information. Because unless you go in there and confess, and then they don't have to worry about it. If you want them to not lie to you, then don't lie to them. I mean, that's the way that's why it makes sense, is what I'm saying. I'm playing devil's advocate. It makes sense, right? Hey, I got it from a law firm. They're not going to make that up. Okay. So number 4 would be they have the right to film. I'm sorry, not they. Well, they body cams, but you have the right to film or photograph a police officer. Okay? If you are in an outdoor public space or a private property with the property owner's permission, you are allowed to film or photograph a police officer. They cannot legally command you not to, and they need a warrant to request to view your videos or photographs. Now, I know nobody knew that. Okay? They need a warrant to view it. So you have a police officer here and you're like filming them, and they'll say, "Stop filming me." It is a request because technically speaking, you can film. If they try to take your phone or something like that, you really can't stop them, but they're not allowed to. And if they view the video without a warrant, they're really not allowed to. So you don't get yourself in trouble. Okay, if you have a bad cop or a dangerous cop and he snatches your phone and breaks it, just remember when you go to court to tell your lawyer that. And let them take it from there. Don't try to do it yourself. That's another mistake people make, because once you threaten him, touch him, hit, you've just assaulted a police officer. That's a whole nother set of laws. You understand? So don't get yourself in trouble, right? Trying to prove a point to somebody that already knows that it's, whether it's true or not. Do you understand? If they're doing that, they know that they're not supposed to be doing that. So you can't correct a police officer in the middle of an arrest. It just doesn't even make sense. All you're going to do is get in trouble and get yourself arrested. But you are actually able to film without him viewing it. Except with a what? Does that mean what? With like the exclamation points at the end? I said to the point for information. I didn't say on the point. I said to the point. Yeah, I like to clarify things so people understand. And I like to apply it in a real setting so you don't do something ridiculous. Like the police officer takes your phone and you're running around trying to grab the phone back from the police officer. Why does that make sense at the time? Unless you're completely drunk. Then you're going to jail anyway because you're probably over the limit. All right, review. You want me to review the first 4? Sure. In review, up until this point, we have number 1 is your phone is private. Number 2, police cannot enter your residence without a warrant. Number 3, police officers can lie to you about having evidence. Number 4, you have the right to film or photograph a police officer. And we're currently on number 4 for you that just came in. I do say don't. I think I do say that a lot of times. Don't resist. Use your right to remain silent. You hear me say all these things. And it's to make everybody safe. The police officers are already on edge because they deal with crazy people all the time. That job is not easy. Okay, so it's not easy to stop people not knowing what they're going to do. So that's number 1. And number 2, you want to keep yourself safe because you don't want to get in a situation where they have to decide whether or not to detain you. Use force, hopefully not excessive force, but you don't want to run. I try to say don't do these types of things because you have legal avenues if they do something wrong, but you've got to get yourself to a safe place and in front of a judge. It will not count anywhere else. Do you understand? So when they say you have the right to remain silent, zip it. Okay? Don't heighten a situation that's already had, and really zip it. This is like one of the biggest things I see all the time is somebody's drunk off their bottoms, trying to not go to jail. Why does this make sense? You can barely walk and you don't think you're going to get arrested. Okay, best case scenario, if you acted like you had some sense, they might let you walk. But if you're going to be yelling and screaming and telling him not to, and telling him what the laws are for him and you or her, and you're just going all in and you're threatening them and you're spitting on them, and I've seen drunk people do crazy stuff, jump on the hood of the car, whatever things that people are doing, and you're just creating a problem that just doesn't need to be there. I mean, I hear them all the time quote the laws that they don't know what the heck they're talking about. It's common sense stuff. I don't have to take the breathalyzer. I'm not breathing. I'm not going to take any tests at all. Well, what does that mean? It means you automatically go to jail. That's what that means. It doesn't mean all of a sudden the police officer is going to go, okay, you're not going to do the breathalyzer. You don't want to take the test. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. They're not going to do that because they have no way to judge whether or not you're over the limit. They just know you're drunk. They don't know how drunk because you're not going to get tested. So what they are going to do is put you in jail for that. Intoxication. I mean, you're going to just go to jail faster, as a matter of fact. But you're thinking, if I get to court and I don't have the breathalyzer, then then you're going to rely on the information that the police officer gives. And for some of you, this is way worse than you just having gotten over the 0.808 or whatever it is for your, whatever the legal limit is, and just getting that number. Because you're intoxicated to that level, to the point you're being completely belligerent, they're not going to just let you walk. And if you get, it's better to just take the test, fail, get arrested. Just don't say anything. But you can't do that most of the time when you're drunk off your rocker. You're probably not making any sense at all. If you're lucky and you still act like you have somewhat of sense, they might have somebody pick you up, take you home, maybe something like that. But I've seen drunk people jump on the hood of a police car. Like, why is that making sense at that point? You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. And you think to yourself, what is this person doing? Like, why are they doing that? So, just keep that in mind when I give you this list, for you not to just run in and just kind of put it into perspective of what's happening at the time and whether or not it makes sense at the time. Why would you admit you've done something like that? You kicked the car door? The police officer's car door? Why would you do that? Because you were drunk? Oh my God. People. Stop it. Don't do it. I'm trying to save lives here. I'm trying to keep people from just spending time in jail that don't need to spend time in jail. I mean, you're probably just out partying and got too drunk. Questions, comments, anything? Everybody's okay? Hello, everyone. Hello. Some of you new people coming in. I appreciate you. All right, so let's do some more. Okay. So, police can search an abandoned property. I love runners in the sense to talk about them because I like to teach the lesson of the worst thing that you could probably do at a stop is start running. And this is one of the reasons. You take off and you're in your car or a car that's registered to somebody that's close to you. And you have guns, weed, drugs, I don't know, whatever's illegal in there. They can find it because guess what? You just gave them the right to search it without a warrant. If you abandon your property, even temporarily, the police can search it. For example, if you are at the airport and leave your bag while you go to the bathroom, the police can legally go through it. Now, before you start killing the messenger, guess what? In 1997 Supreme Court case of the United States versus Tugwell, now I'm citing the source, the court held that whenever a person leaves their property unattended, they forfeit privacy protections provided under the Fourth Amendment. So now you can't say that I don't know what I'm talking about. Yes, I absolutely do know what I'm talking about. I just cited the actual case. Okay, so you run, you take off, you start dropping stuff along. You drop your cell phone. Guess what? They can go through that. You drop your bag, they can go through that. You start throwing stuff, drugs, and they are just picking stuff up as you go along, including searching the car you just ran from. They can search the building you were just in. They can search anything that you leave on your way. Legally, without a search warrant at all. Police knock on your door, you take off running. One will chase you, and the other ones will search your property without a search warrant because you just abandoned it. Because the key word there, when we say abandon in this particular legal action, is even temporarily. Even temporarily. You take off running, police don't know where you are. Two of them will chase you. The other ones will search your property. And you go, he didn't even have a warrant to search my, because you guys say crazy stuff when you are not paying attention. And he did search my, and he's gonna say because they ran off. He searched my car. I did not give permission for him to. While you're getting arrested because you returned at this point. Why didn't he search my car and I didn't give them a permission to search my car? And you're yelling and screaming. They're putting the cuffs on you and you're still going all in. And this is not legal. You need a search warrant. Do you have a search warrant? And police still putting you in the back of the car. Then they try to kick you. You try to jump off the car talking about they search. You found that in my property. He is not listening to you because he knows you just abandoned the property and therefore he had a right to search it. He did not need a search warrant. You gave permission by abandoning the property. I.e., in a sense, right? You didn't actually say it, but by abandoning the property, you gave them the right to not need a search warrant to search it, even temporarily. And I hear people screaming all the time about stuff like that. He didn't have a search warrant, blah, 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 as they found you, up the street and tackled you because you were running off. You dropped your phone. It had no code on it, so he's going to search the phone. So if you can get that and understand it, then you will realize that a search warrant isn't always needed. And under what circumstances is that search warrant going to be needed to search anything that you have, your properties and whatnot? Okay? Questions, comments, anything? We're on a roll because you guys are very shocked. I sense the shock there. Okay? So we want to make sure we understand how these laws can be applied, which is really the key. Not just to know them, but to know when and how to apply them, okay? Okay, so even temporarily. Someone's saying temporarily, yeah, if it doesn't, you don't have to permanently leave. Once you abandon something, i.e. you ran off, you hid for an hour or two, or they chased you into, they're searching. They're searching everything that had to do with what you left behind. That's purses, that's cell phones. At that point, you'll hear the police officers go, unlock the cell phone. You can't search my cell phone. You don't have a warrant. You abandon it. Yes, I can. Cell phone falls out your pocket while you're running. Police picks it up. They're going to search that now. Drop your purse, drop a bag. They're picking it up. Okay? So you need to understand that, because that's the same person that's yelling about the law about how you're not supposed to search the cell phone, and they're going to say, I know because I saw it and they said you can't search the cell phone, and you forgot the other part. You forgot that you did another action that changed the dynamic and changed the circumstances. Once circumstances change, you could apply other laws there. That makes sense? So that's why when they say the right to remain silent, it is to keep from you having compound illegal actions or compound legal actions, one or the other, or both. But it's because you talk and then that happens, and then you run and then that happens, and then you curse out the police officer and kick him in the knee and that happens, and then you bang up your head against the police car and you're damaging police property, and that happens, and then you kick in the door and the police, ones, they try to put you in the back, and then that happens, and then you just start having compound actions that all have a legal pathway to them. So somebody just said, right to remain silent, just be quiet. Just be quiet. Let it happen. Worry about the legal parts after. You know what I mean? If it's as best you can, right? Yeah, because at that point, it doesn't apply anymore. Because you abandoned at that point. They don't need a search warrant after that. They do need a search warrant in the first circumstances unless they feel there's evidence of an illegal act going on. A woman's beaten. She looks abused. Somebody's trying to, like I said earlier, trying to block the door. Police will go in. Okay? You run and abandon a bunch of stuff, the police will go in, but they will go in on searching your stuff. So you have to know where to apply each of these laws, if that makes sense. All right, you guys bear with me for 1 second. Okay. All right. Oh, a whole lot of them. Okay, gotcha. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for those of you that are just now coming in. We are discussing legal things that police officers are assumed to be able to do and are not able to do. I also put them into perspective with how you apply what I am telling you so that I don't just give you blanket information. I also cite sources, which are usually case studies, okay, of how that law came to be and why it's on the books. All right. All right, number 6. Oh, review. Okay. Here's the review. Okay. Your phone is private. The police cannot enter your residence without a warrant. Police officers can lie to you about having evidence. You have the right to film or photograph a police officer. And police can search or abandon property. Now, make sure you get the details for that. Do not just start quoting stuff. And I said that at the top. I'll say it in the middle, and I'll say it again at the end. Okay? Number 6. Unless you have been arrested or detained, you can leave the police station. Did someone say, what? Yes, you. Okay, well, let me break it down a little bit. Let me break it down. If you have not been detained or arrested, the police cannot hold you against your will. You should ask if you are being detained, and if not, you are free to go. Okay? And I've seen circumstances like this, and most of the time, realistically speaking, the police officers will tell you ahead of time. They will literally say, you're not being, arrested or detained. We're just here for questioning, but, we would just like to get some information from you. And if you stood up and said, then I'm leaving, they will not keep you. Unless you go all in. So let's say you decide, I don't need to be here. And most of the time when you're guilty, you're a little more hypersensitive than a person that's not guilty. So you might jump up and be like, am I being arrested? Am I being arrested? Are you accusing me of murder? Are you saying I murdered somebody? Okay. You're getting ready to be detained because they're going to ask you, why are you even assuming something like that? So they're going to do their job. They're going to encourage you to continue. Why would you think we would detain you for murder? Because so-and-so got killed? And I might have been there, but okay, sit down. Now you're being detained. Being detained for belligerent behavior, interfering with an investigation. I mean, they can throw anything in there at that point because you're acting like an idiot. And, they're going to try to detain you, especially if they think you're guilty. So this can get a little sticky because unless you're completely innocent, you're probably not going to go all in. You're probably going to just say, I would rather talk to an attorney. And since I'm not being detained here, I would like to, just go home and, if I need an attorney, I will. Or if you need anything else from me, I will. But guilty people don't act like that. Guilty people have a tendency to go all in on some extra stuff. And they're grateful for that because what you're doing is allowing them to have a reason to detain you. That's pretty much it. That's part of their job, especially if they realize, there's other laws that work in their favor. So you can't really abuse this one. In every circumstances, if other laws are to be applied, you can't always just walk out. Sometimes it will be overridden by something else that will be able to allow them to detain you, if that makes sense. So can you or can't you? You can if you're not being under arrest or detained. That's the only way. If you got arrested You can't, and people start yelling, "You can't keep me here. I'm not staying." You are arrested. If when you were doing something and the police officer puts cuffs on you and he says you're going to be detained, and you get to the police station, you can't yell, "I'm not. You can't keep me here." But he already told you he detained you, so I'm not being arrested. Are you arresting me? Am I being arrested? And he might say yes or no, but he's letting you know you were detained already. So what difference does it make? Why are you having this conversation with me right now? Take a seat. You're going to be here. And you'll get all mad and go in some more, and then, it just spirals. What you're not understanding is it's one or the other or both. If you're getting arrested, if you're getting detained, if he tells you you're detained, or tells you he's putting you under arrest, he's placing you under arrest, that means you're there. So yelling about "you can't keep me here" includes being detained there. So he didn't say the word "arrest you," but he did say one that would keep you there. Does that make sense? Because a lot of people get hung up on the word "arrest," and he would have told you when he put the cuffs on you, you're now being detained. And I've heard a police officer actually say those words, and then later you see the person yelling and screaming and saying, "He never told me I was being arrested. He never said I was being arrested," and they kept saying the word "arrest, arrest, arrest," but he already had told them that they were going to be detained. So I don't understand, why people just, it's both, okay? It's one or both or the other, right? If he says anything like that, if he says detained or arrested, both of those equal you not leaving. So we need to clarify that. Because sometimes the police officer will just say you're being detained, and people don't understand that means that's a fancy way of saying you're here. So I didn't say arrest you. I said you're detained. Therefore, you are here. It's another way of saying you're here. So you can keep yelling and screaming, but he already detained you. So you're there. To be silent and lawyer up, or, talk about whichever you're supposed to be talking about. But whatever you choose to do, leaving at that point is not an option. If you try to leave, they will put you in jail. They will arrest you. Because you can't leave at that point. They will not allow you to leave. So people get crazy. They start screaming. They start kicking. They start throwing stuff. And screaming. I've seen people scream to the top of their lungs, and they're completely being detained. And it's like they're screaming at the top of their lungs for no reason. All they're going to do is just leave you in that little room or leave you in the cell until you calm down. So if he says you're being detained at this point, consider yourself there. Okay? If he says you're being arrested, that's an obvious one. But if he switches the word to detain because it has a slightly different meaning than being out and out arrested, then it's the same. For you, the outcome is going to be the same as far as you not being able to leave. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it because it's a just a complete lack of understanding of the legal jargon being used. They're slightly different for a reason. The definitions are a little bit different, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, for you, it just means you can't leave. You cannot exercise your right to leave the police station. They have to release you. And, you're probably going to be arrested or there for a long time. But usually detainment ends up in sometimes an arrest. Um, I would say probably you would have to ask a police officer, but maybe the majority of the time. All right. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, just note that either one of those phrases means that you're not able to leave. And trying to leave is only going to create more problems for you and more charges against you at a later date. All right. Number 7, you have the right to look at a search warrant. Neither here nor there. It's a search warrant. But people like to say that they want to see what's If it's a real search warrant, I guess. I don't know what that means, but it says if the police come to your residence with a search warrant, you have the right to read it. The police are only allowed to search the places specified in the warrant. You're saying everybody doesn't know that? Okay, so that's why people. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me correct. I didn't know people didn't know that, so that they kept asking for a police warrant, generally as if they were going to sit down and read it. But what you're basically just looking for in a search warrant is the areas that they're supposed to search, not whether it's real or fake. Signed by the judge, that's about as real as you get. I mean, you can get mad all day long. You can spit on the floor. You can, yell at them. You can go all in on, what they're doing. But it's signed by a judge. It's a search warrant. They have a right to search. What they don't have a right to do is search the areas that are not on the warrant. So if you want to look at that search warrant intelligently and not just, let me see if this is a real warrant, let me look at this search warrant. It's like kicking a tire if you go to the car dealership. It's a clear sign you don't know the law at all. It's like you don't know about cars if you're kicking the tire. What are you kicking the tire for? What is that? What are you doing? Look under the hood. And it's the same thing here. So if you're kicking a tire, so to speak, it doesn't make sense. What you need to be saying, let me see the search warrant. Let me see where you can search before you start your search. Is that okay? And then you look at the warrant, and if it says you can search the living room and 2 of the bathrooms, but not the back bedrooms, then that you politely tell them, the search warrant says this, please stay in these areas. That's it. That's the only reason you're looking. Trying to stop them from searching with a search warrant signed by a judge is not going to happen. All you're going to seek to do is get yourself arrested. Because you're interfering at that point with a legal document that says they have a right to do that. When people read the search warrants, it's funny because they'll look to see if it's signed by the judge, but they won't check the areas at all. That's really ridiculous. Like, of course it's signed by a judge. I mean, very rarely can you pass off a fake search warrant, and if you do, then you have legal recourse after the fact. They're still going to search at the time. But if you're really, up on it, and you've watched this podcast, obviously, or listened to it, what you're basically going to do is you're going to just see where they can search. And if there's any areas that they're not allowed to look in, then you don't have to let them look in those areas. I don't know why I didn't think people didn't know that. People generally ask for the search warrant. I was just saying it originally as if to say that people don't utilize the fact that it's certain areas. But thank you, Raphael. You alerted to me that people actually don't know that it's certain areas to search, or if they have certain areas. Okay. So thank you for that. All right. Where are we at? So here's one that people probably don't really know. Police need probable cause to pull you over. Now, we're going to put this in perspective. But the police cannot pull you over without legal justification. Okay? This is known as probable cause. It's another way of saying it, right? A fancy way of saying, justifying why they have a legal reason to pull you over. It is a minimum threshold a police officer must have to be able to initiate a traffic stop. A police officer must be able to articulate specifically what conduct they believed was legal before stopping you. And if they do pull you over without probable cause to believe you committed a crime and then discover evidence of criminal activity, the evidence cannot be used against you in court. Now, I have to caution this. The key words there is that evidence cannot be used against you in court. That means it is a legal action, which means it's not going to count until you go to court. Right? It's like not being Mirandized. You forgot to give me my Miranda rights, and they're just going to read them to you.
But if you're smart, you'll be quiet. You won't remind them that they didn't read them, and then you'll go to court and tell them they didn't read them. And therefore, this case should be thrown out. You understand? Or you tell your lawyer, I didn't get Mirandized that day. I guess they forgot. Okay, but yelling and going, okay, so I say that to apply it to this particular one. They pull you over. They don't have probable cause. Or you don't think they have probable cause. Or maybe they really don't have probable cause. The first thing any person with bad intentions is going to want to do is to throw you off the track by provoking you. Because they need to now distract you from the fact that they don't have probable cause. And people fall for this one every single time. Not every person. Some people are smart and they're well versed. But some people just, they're high, they're drunk, they're not paying attention, they're pissed off, they hate police officers in the first place, and now they're getting stopped by a police officer, and they're letting all this personal emotion rise up, and they're going all in about the police not stopping them for a good. Why you stop me? What'd you stop me for? No. I need to know why you stopped me. No. What did you stop me for? No. You're gonna tell me why you. And you're getting provoked, and you're getting provoked, and you're getting provoked, and the next thing you know, you do something that is reason to arrest you. You gave them probable cause. Do you understand? Many people, if you even just watch just regular shows that just tape people doing stuff, you will see people give them probable cause all the time. Now, this is not to say that those stops they're legal stops in the first place, right? Or even if they had probable cause in the first place, you're just giving them more ammo. Remain silent, even if you don't think they have a legit cause, and let it play itself out. And then if and when you go to court about this case, then you tell them they didn't have probable cause and why. Quit putting yourself at risk, because what you jump it all and then you jump out the car and then they say, put your hands behind your back, and you resist and you're fighting and then put you up again, and then you're getting abused and beaten and hurt, fighting bad or good cops. Even if it's a bad cop, he just got to provoke you, so that's definitely feeds into his hands. And if it's a good cop, now you're a threat to him, so he's going to have to detain you, or he's going to have to cuff you, or he's going to have to put you down because you're now being threatening towards them. Either way, good cop, bad cop, you're going to be in trouble if you start going all in every time. Because they have to protect. Even the best of cops, it's a dangerous job. They have to be safe. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't even know especially if you're on something. You get out of the car high, they don't know if that's weed, alcohol, crack, a combination of both, a combination of all three. They don't know what you're on. So they just know that you're yelling, you're high, and you're starting to get too aggressive. So you have to. No, they cannot stop you without probable cause. But first, understanding what that is and how to get that out of them. Because if you just go in and start yelling at them, you're already wrong to start. In their eyes, right? If you say, do you have probable cause? Realistically speaking, that's not the time to bring that up. It isn't. It just really isn't. I mean, there's a time and place for everything. And because this is a legal court action that has legal ramifications in the eyes of the law, that's when you bring it up, realistically speaking, to your attorney. I mean, the minute you say, do you have probable cause for stopping me? He's going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, I stopped you because, whatever he said, I stopped you because you were speeding. That's not probable cause. Well, what is probable cause? Do you even know what that is? And most of the time you cannot defend that because you don't know what it is. You just know that they have to have a reason, and you've interpreted probable cause as a reason. And so you're going all in on him, he or she telling you why they stopped you. If you're trying to be super fancy, you might even use the term probable cause. But it's not appropriate when he just stopped you because he didn't even get a chance to tell you why he stopped you before you started going all in. Because I hate police officers. I'm going to go all in just because you stopped me, because usually you guys stop me for some stupid reason. And you have that in your mind when they pull you over. So you start going all in when they ask you, what's your identity? Can I get your driver's license? Nope. I'm not giving my driver's license. You don't need my driver's license. Well, ma'am, I need your driver's license. No, I'm not giving you my driver's license. Why I gotta give you my driver's license? Ma'am, can you step out of the car? I'm not stepping out of the car. I don't have to step out the car. You have no reason to have me step out the car. But the reason why he's having you step out the car is because you're not identifying yourself, and now you're being aggressive, and he can say you're posing a threat to him. He hasn't even had a chance to have a conversation with you. You see what I'm saying? So cool it and make sure you're using the probable cause appropriately. Right when he stops you, yelling at him, he or she, to tell you why they stopped you is not exposing that they don't have probable cause. Okay? Just like anything, you have to get that first. If he or she hasn't had a chance to talk to you, to tell you anything, before you got aggressive, belligerent, loud, or mad, then even when you go to court, they're going to get you on that versus the fact that he or she did or did not have probable cause, because they didn't get a chance to ask you. They didn't get a chance to say anything to you before you posed a threat to them. You see what I'm saying? Facts, facts, facts. Truth with the F. I love truth with the F. Crazy. Interesting. People do that. People do that. Because, you hear a term and then somebody thinks they learned something and then they go all in. But you have to know how to apply what you're learning. And that's really the biggest deal for that. I talk a lot about application because it's true. I think information without application is completely useless. That's just in my opinion. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I try to give people application all the time. Hi, welcome. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, some new people creeping up in here. I appreciate it. Hello, new people. Hello. All right. So let's go to another one. All right. Number 9. You can refuse. This is another one. I'm saving these till the end because I have to caution some of these. You can refuse consent to a search. Okay. You are never required to consent to a search. If the police ask to search your vehicle, person, or residence but do not have a warrant, you can tell them you do not consent to the search. Also, if you have consented to the search and the police damaged your property, it is unlikely that you will be compensated, okay? Because you gave them permission to perform the search. This is twofold, okay? Now let's just remember, following along with the theme of where to apply something. Yes, you can refuse a search, okay, of your person and things. Depending upon where you are, what happened prior to that, if you had abandoned anything at any moment or time, if you gave the impression of abandoning something, if you got in a fight and they made you sit on the curb and then you fought while you were on the curb and then, they picked you up and put you in the back of the police car, can they go search your vehicle then? Technically speaking, yes. You're like, what? Now, some people will argue this and they may win, the lawyer, but it can be argued because the judge will have to determine whether or not that vehicle was temporarily abandoned. It can be a cause for an argument on both ends. Because abandonment does not constitute distance necessarily. Okay, abandonment meaning you just left it, even temporarily. So could he or she search it and then still have a debate about it? Yes. Okay. You can refuse consent, but if you say, I'm not consenting to that, and then during the course of you saying that, they can smell that you smoking weed and you were driving previously, he's going to search it anyway. He or she. Because at that point, illegal action. You're not supposed to drive while you're high. Almost in any state. Somebody name me the state that you can drive and be high. Because even if weed is legal, you can't behind the wheel. Technically speaking, right? If I'm wrong, please fact check me and tell me what state will allow you to drive and smoke weed. Okay, so use this with common sense. Not common sense, but use this with caution because, again, it can be muddled by your behaviors. You can not have to have consent after a while because of what you said, did, or any behaviors that followed suit, okay? Also, this is all the time if your property is damaged during a search. It doesn't matter whether it was a consent or low-key, even with a warrant, they don't repair that stuff. If the SWAT team busts through your door and starts searching for stuff, break down walls and stuff, they don't fix that. And you can say, I don't want to consent to that because I don't want any damage to happen. And if it's damaged, I will actually have to pay for it. So I don't want my cell phone searched. And that would make more sense than you going all in about how he legally can't. And you're trying to tell him his job or his or her job. And it sounds arrogant and you're getting on their nerves probably at that point. And if they find a reason to arrest you, they're probably going to. Or detain you or put you in the back of the squad car. So don't just start throwing stuff out there. If you say that's why, it's, I literally, I don't want any property damaged. And I just would rather not consent to a search at this time, if that's okay. That's going to sound better than, you giving them some legal jargon you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, these are here to protect you, but they're not here to be abused while you're doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing. If you're smoking weed and you're driving in a state where it's illegal, which is a lot of the states, even if weed is legal in the state, you'll hear people going all in. I'm able to smoke weed. It's legal now. It's legal in the state. I can smoke. And you start going all in. And you're right. Absolutely, 100%. It is legal. You can smoke. But you cannot smoke and drive. So if you were smoking and he previously stopped you, he or she, and they get you out the car and they realize you were smoking weed while you were driving, they're going to search because they have cause, because they think illegal activity has happened. Now they have to prove that you were high while you were driving. That is cause to search without a search warrant. You see what I'm saying? So you can yell, I don't want to give consent all day long, but you're high and he just pulled you over, so you were driving. So he can search without a search warrant. He or she can search without a search warrant. And you can yell all day long, it's just going to get you arrested. If you really believe that they didn't have a right to do that, or you in your state for whatever weird reason, I don't know what state, somebody would have to tell me, if the case were realistic in any state where you can drive and be high, then you have to take that to court. But don't get yourself arrested in the meantime. Because more than likely, what they're going to do is tell you not to get back behind the wheel. But if you act all crazy, then you're going to jail. They're going to arrest you. So you got to put that into perspective. Even if you're not sure, it makes more sense for you to say, I understood it, that I have to give consent for you to search. Can you please tell me why you're searching if I didn't give you consent? And they're going to tell you because I feel that there's illegal activity, whatever it is. I stopped you, you were high. I want to make sure that you don't get back in this car high because you're not supposed to drive high. They'll tell you what it is. That's when they'll start to tell you stuff. If you sort of make it a conversation rather than you just sort of break it out. Even if it's a bad cop. Don't let the key with the bad cop is the provoking. They will work very hard to do that. Any person with bad intentions will work to provoke you because they need to distract you from what they're really trying to do. So they're going to come up with all kind of nonsense to try to get you angry. Use that against you. So even with a bad cop, you can still prevent it from going too far. You know what I mean? But most of the time, a good cop will just simply tell you. And there's body cams now, so even a bad cop will have to turn into a good cop because it's on a body cam. You know what I mean? Really good. Kicking knowledge. I like that one. I'm just saying. I'm trying to make it easy for everybody so, we can continue to calm down on some of all this crazy stuff that's been going on. We have enough going on in the world. We don't need, more police brutalities and police getting hurt out there either. Okay, so my number 10, to me, goes in line with all the other things I said. It is one that but do not use on a regular basis. Number 10, and probably should be number 1, you have the right to remain silent. If you are being questioned by a police officer, you have the right to not answer their questions. Politely tell them that you are asserting your right to remain silent and ask to speak to your lawyer. You can also call the desk sergeant. Okay, if you feel like the cops are crooked. Tell them you will not do anything until the desk sergeant arrives. Okay? You cannot be arrested or detained simply for refusing to answer questions. Okay? If you are drunk off the side of then you can barely stand up, be quiet. I'm going to remain silent. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to be quiet. Shh. Because I don't need to be talking. I don't care how you say it. Just say it. And then be quiet. Another mistake, don't say it and then continue talking. I'm going to be silent. I'm asserting my right to be silent. Listen, when I came out that building, and there you go explaining your situation, which all of it can be used against you in the court of law. Just be quiet. I hate cops. Cops are all bad. You don't even like us. And then you start going all in. You don't need to say anything. They can't do anything if you're just quiet. They can't even provoke you if you're saying, I'm not talking. Don't say anything. Is this your cell phone? I'm asserting my right to be silent. Oh, come on. You can tell me. It's not even a serious question. I just need to know if this is your cell phone. I'm asserting my right to be silent. It's like 5. Remember that trial? Those of you that look back on history, or some of you that were actually there? 5. Remember he said that? 5. Black Panther trial. That's all he said the entire time. Like, they were all kind of questions, and he was like, I served my right to 5th. I'm going 5 on that one. He just 5th the entire time, because once you say one thing, sort of opens it up for other stuff. You don't remember that? It was the Black Panther trial. And one of the witnesses, it was a very pivotal time in that particular case, because there was going to be a lot of trouble going on, right? You got Huey there. Witness. And the witness asserts his right to use the Fifth Amendment. And because of that, it saved all of that testimony that would have gotten everybody in trouble. He basically said, I'm not snitching without saying I'm not snitching. He just basically said, 5. And no matter what they asked him, he said the same thing. I assert my right to use Fifth Amendment. So, in a weird sort of a way, sometimes silence is better than talking. Sometimes silence is better than winning at that time. You want to win against the police officer? No, you don't. Because in that moment, they're going to win. Even if it means taking your butt to jail. However, by any means necessary to get you in the car to take you to jail. But you have legal rights. You will not be able to exercise them if you talk yourself into trouble. Some of you can't stay out of trouble if you tried. So those are the people that are silent. If you are well educated in the law, if you understand that you hadn't done anything, and you want to say a few things, by all means, if you can handle that conversation. But most people can't handle that conversation. You've either done something, you're high, you're drunk, you don't understand what you're talking about, you are, putting yourself in a resisting position by yelling. I've seen people spit on the police, kick the police, try to take their cuffs. I've seen people just do ridiculous stuff, as if that's really helping you at any given time. I've had people fight, argue, cuss, yell at, talk about their family, talk about just going in. And at the end, guess where they ended up? In the back of that squad car. Whoop, on their way to jail. And they might have not even gone in the beginning. Can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody that didn't need to get arrested. It was really ridiculous. It was just like, just be quiet. Just be quiet. If you're in a conversation, it's like people that have to prove something. It's silly. Let your ego go. It's not about proving yourself. There are plenty of conversations in life that you are not equipped to have. Accept that, be okay with it, but keep yourself from getting yourself locked under the jail. Because once that hits the court and you have a record and all that stuff comes as a result of that, you're going to be sorry you didn't just be quiet. Questions, comments, anything? Yeah, lots of times. People are saying lots of times that happens. That happens too many times. It happens even with young people. You see a young kid, this is a young idiot, they're drunk as heck, and they're going all in on, who their parents are. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? You're the one getting stopped. You're the one that's drunk. Your parents are not going to get you out of this. You're getting ready to get arrested. It's going to happen. Like, stop kicking the police officer. I mean, you can't get your way this time. Let it go. Just like knock it off. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes, if you sound like you make some kind of sense. I mean, you're drunk. You're like, yeah, I'm drunk. And, I understand you're right. But if I just don't drive, I call my mom or something. If you're talking like that, he might let you, they might be like, oh my God, this kid's an idiot. All right, call your parents. How far are your parents from here? Really. But if you start kicking him and yelling at him and spitting on him and telling him, you have every right because you're, dad's the mayor or whatever the situation is, whatever your profession, my dad is a lawyer or whatever your profession is, you're going to jail. If nothing else, to prove the point that you shouldn't be treating people like that. Like, you need to spend some night in jail so rather than just being quiet. Questions, comments? I do say that a lot because I've seen so much. I just see things and I'm like, this is gonna spiral. Like, shut it down. I've been stopped and had to had to stop the spiral of the people that I was with. Just like, okay, everybody, just very calm down. Let me just say a few words here. How about you just be silent? Because, especially if you've been drinking, sometimes people just high, drunk, on stuff. You just say crazy stuff out of nowhere. It's kind of like, I'm trying to prevent you from getting arrested. I literally had a friend that I had to slowly, because this policeman was going to shoot. He had his gun. He said, if you keep talking, I'm going to pull this gun out and I'm going to shoot you. Clearly not a good cop, right? Because he was drunk. He wasn't really doing anything, but he's just this tall, huge guy. Military guy. He's a very big guy. And he was about 6'6", and he was tall. He was drunk as heck. And he was moving up in on the police officer. Police officer's like, back up, back up. And we all knew he wasn't going to do anything, but the police officer apparently just felt trigger happy that day. He pulls out the gun, cocks it, and oh my God, I panicked. Everybody was shocked because I'm like, he's going to shoot this guy. And I don't know why I thought fast. I guess my dad's personality kicked in. And I just said, you don't have to do that. I'm talking to him on the side. I'm not touching him. I'm not saying anything. I said, they will move him. Everybody move him. We're moving him. And everybody just sort of jumped in front of him and just started pushing him. And he was still trying to talk. And the guy was like, I will shoot him. I will shoot him. And I was like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to shoot him right here in broad daylight. I was like, I don't know what I was saying. I was probably making stuff up. But I was just very, very calmly trying to keep this police officer from shooting this guy's head off. And I don't know if my words made a difference or just the situation made a difference. But either way, he should have been silent and he just wasn't able to do it. I say all that to say this. I say all that to say sometimes talking can get you hurt. And he literally, I believe in my heart, honestly. You could tell by the look on his face. You could tell he was looking for a fight type of situation that he really just shot him. I feel like. Because it was one thing to pull his gun out, but it was another thing to pull it out and cock it and just brace yourself like, I'm getting ready to shoot this kid. He wasn't a kid, he was a man, but getting ready to shoot this guy. And I'm standing like a few feet from him, looking at him. Panicked, because I was like, he's really gonna, I believed him. I was like, he's really gonna shoot him. He's gonna shoot this guy. He's gonna shoot my friend. We did a little fast talking and got him out of the situation, threw him in the back of the car, sped off. But I say all that not to tell you that situation, as scary as it was, but it was because you don't know what shape people are in. This is a dangerous job. Some people are burnt out. Some people have a vendetta. You don't know what's going on in somebody else's mind. So sometimes it's best to just be quiet. I say all that to say that. It is literally what that means. You have a right to remain silent. And the reason why you have the right to remain silent, it is to keep you from escalating a situation, making it worse, whether it's by incriminating yourself, whether it's by threatening the police officer non-intentionally or intentionally. It's really to take you to that next step. You've heard me say this before. The real legal part does not come during the arrest or the detainment or the stop. It comes at the next level when you get to the courtroom. Okay? The key is to get you there. Unharmed. Everybody unharmed, including the police officers, because there's too many times a police officer jumped out thinking it's a routine stop. Somebody brandished a gun and starts shooting at him. This is just would have been a routine stop, and it's not routine anymore. Suddenly they're getting shot at. So you have to think of the heightened emotions of each side. There are people that are on the other side of that car, and they've been beaten by bad cops so many times. They're just tired of it at that point. You know what I mean? And they might just rebel or be angry the minute you step up, even if you're one of the best cops in the world. You're scared because you don't know what to expect on the other side of that door. So you have two people in very tense emotions trying to complete a task, basically. So you sometimes just let it go smoothly and then go from there. That's my opinion, okay? That's from having seen people either almost get shot, people get surrounded, the police being in danger. I mean, I've seen some stuff that I'm just like, I think that in that case, it was better to just be quiet. I mean, especially if you're a woman, you'll be like, you arrested a woman, but you just kicked him 5 times and spit on him. Like, he's mad. You know what I mean? You're posing a threat to him, even though you're a woman. You're still being loud, belligerent, and, he can still arrest you because you're still posing a threat in some way. And he may opt to do that just because he wants you to shut the heck up. Because he doesn't want to be kicked, hit, because he's trying to do his job and you're making it difficult. Or because you feel entitled, because you shouldn't be arrested just because you're you. It's like one of those things that you're just like, just be quiet. Literally stop talking. Just stop. We don't want to hear about your entitlement. Calm down. So that's why I start to like kind of make it so people kind of get an understanding of how to apply what they're learning, because I've also heard a lot of people just misquote. Not even misquote, but they're just applying the law all in any kind of crazy spot, and I'm like, that doesn't go there. I get what you're trying to say, but yeah, no. You've done it before. Applied. What did you say? That he couldn't arrest you. Couldn't arrest you for what? Not taking the breathalyzer. Oh, you've said that before. Not taking the breathalyzer. Did you take what is it called? The ground test or whatever, the one where they do you didn't take any of them? You didn't want to take any of them. You ended up taking the breathalyzer then? How long did it take you to take the breathalyzer? Like, were you like, did you get arrested because you were over the limit, or because what were you doing in between the time before you took the actual breathalyzer? Arguing. You were going anyway, because if you were yelling and going in, you were yelling at him. Why were you yelling at him? Oh my God. Don't answer. I mean, clearly, you were going to go to jail either way because you were already yelling at him and stuff. Does it make sense not to take the breathalyzer when you go to court? So as I explained earlier, not necessarily. I don't know why people think that's better. It just means you just go to court with no proof, number-wise, that you were over the legal limit. But they're going to rely on the report from the police officer. Unless you have an attorney that's going to just argue the heck out that case against the breathalyzer. And why you needed that number for some strange reason in order to have been considered legally intoxicated. That's basically what it is. Almost a waste of time because, I mean, literally, if they can show that you were legally intoxicated. If you were yelling at him and being belligerent and acting as if they're going to say you were. Maybe not necessarily over the limit, but legally intoxicated. I mean, yeah, it's a debate. People are like, oh, I'm not taking it because doesn't that mean I don't get to go to, I'm not going to get in trouble? And many people have DUIs and DWIs that didn't have a breathalyzer. So I don't know how you could state that claim because it sounds like that's not actually accurate. Yeah, it's not just the breathalyzer, by the way. You take it and it's over the legal limit and you get arrested. More than likely, if they think you're that intoxicated and you provoke in some way, you're probably going to get arrested anyway. They're not going to allow you to like get back behind the wheel or just go off. They might put you even in a holding cell. They don't actually charge you. Just to get you to sleep it off. Depends on the police officer. Just like police, there's not one police. You know what I mean? It's plural, meaning people have different personalities and different ways of handling situations, just like any other job. Arrest warrants. You didn't know that? Yeah, I don't think a lot of people knew that. That you actually have to that they can only search what's on the warrant. Will you get in trouble if you refuse? So again, it depends on what's happening at the time. What you have to, I want you to really do is separate the arrest part from the legal part. This is not to say that legal things shouldn't happen during an arrest, but you don't know what type of police officer you're dealing with. And you won't know if you're not having a conversation with him versus you actually, or them, because usually two, versus you actually going all in on, whatever personal feelings you have towards the police officers or the police or blue in general. Especially if you've had a bad experience with them, you will be triggered a lot faster. So, they might stop you and, you just might be like, why am I being stopped? Just automatically because you're like, first of all, I haven't done anything. And, I happen to be a minority. And now all of a sudden I'm getting stopped randomly by the police. What exactly have I done? And then you say that when they come to the car. Like, because in your mind, you're already thinking that, or you're saying it to the person driving on the side of you. Incidentally, another one of those, here's a bonus. If you're on the passenger side, unless you're being arrested, you do not have to give your ID. Legally speaking. Now, they may make you do it, but you generally do not. They have to have even if they have a reason, you're not the driver. But to take that for what it's worth, because again, you have to be extremely well versed on how that is applied before you actually say that. Okay? And I want to make sure you do that because remember, during the arrest, legal parts aren't going to be as applicable. Okay? Not as much as they're going to be later. So what you want to do is really get through the arrest procedures as smooth as possible. Can you run as the passenger? No, then you're going to be doing something. No, they're going to chase you. They're going to probably chase you because you're going to look like a criminal act is happening, right? They have the right to if they suspect illegal activity. If you start running randomly out of nowhere, even if you're the passenger, they're going to chase you. They're probably going to wonder what you're running from. That just looks suspicious. Are you trying to be funny? Can you drive the other person home? So someone's asking, this is an interesting question. They're asking if the person is intoxicated, can you just switch and drive the other person home? You certainly can recommend that. And most of the time, if it's, police officer is not feeling like you're threatening in any way, they'll probably recommend that. If you start acting all crazy, you won't get a chance to ask. Because they're just not running around looking to want to arrest people. But if they can see that you're intoxicated and you were driving, and sometimes they might just allow you to switch places. It's not to say that they're supposed to do that or not supposed to do that. It's just that they may allow that as an alternative for you getting tested and getting arrested. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's just is what it is. I mean, like again, it's like any other job. Sometimes you'll go to a job and, you'll go to the DMV, for example, and the person might be really well versed in their job and they'll be able to help you, get the things that you need a lot better than somebody that's just there for the paycheck. Of course, they're going to just do whatever, and they're not going to give you any alternatives. They're just going to do just the basics. So it can be the same. You might get stopped by somebody that's just going to make sure you go to jail no matter what. Or you could be stopped by somebody that's like, okay, in this particular situation, I can see that the person is drunk, but she also has a person riding with them. And, just I'm just going to let it go for this time because you're not that bad, but don't do it again kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Right, right, right. Anybody questions come? Oh, that's good. You got a story to tell. What story you got to tell? Why does a police officer put you on the hood? Um, what do you mean? You mean like smash you up against when they're handcuffing you? Now, when someone says this to me, and I hear this often, what happened before that? Like when you got stopped immediately. You asked them what you were stopping them for. There you go. Don't do that. Because it already starts. You're not going all in. Don't go in on me. I'm trying to help you. Don't say, what did you stop me for? Because I almost guarantee that you didn't just say, how come I'm stopped? You probably said it with a lot of aggression because you were irritated at the time that you were being stopped. The reason why I say don't say that is not because it can't be said, but because there's a lot of anger behind a person that will say that. You don't when they stop everybody, doesn't say what you stopped me for. So the fact that you're saying that lets me know that you were probably upset at the time. So I'm trying to save you from it being misinterpreted as you being aggressive. Just wait and let him tell you what he stopped you for. Or ask, do you know why I stopped you? But let it come out first before you have a chance to mess yourself up from the very beginning by starting the conversation out aggressively. Not intentionally. I'm not saying you intentionally did it. I'm saying just the fact that you asked that question lets me speculate, I'll say it that way, that you were probably upset at the time. Because it's not a question that you just normally ask. You don't normally get stopped. I don't ever go, what'd you stop me for? I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just like, yes, officer. You know what I mean? Like, what just happened? I'm more of a what just happened. But I'm not a, what you stopped me for? It's almost a sign that you were probably mad. And if you were mad and upset, you probably said it more aggressively than you needed to or wanted to. Not even needed to. You probably needed to say it aggressively, but more aggressive than you wanted to. Anything, that's correct, that can be perceived as a threat. Thank you. That is absolutely correct. Anything that can be perceived as a threat, right, can be taken and used. Not always bad cops, because they don't know you. And they could have just got shot at, 2 days ago. So it's just a matter of it being a hypersensitive situation. Every time you go into that stop, if you think of it this way, just like you don't know what they're going to do as a police officer, and you have a little level of intensity there, they don't know what you're going to do. So there's a level of intensity there as well. So if you come right out the gate with the traditional criminal response, what'd you stop me for? Because regular people don't say that. They don't. They just wait for you to tell them why I'm stopping. Good day, officer. What happened? It's only certain ways that you can say that. So the thought process behind you saying that lets me know that the fact that you said it, what you were already in, what state of mind you were already in. And they can read that as well. So it's more like, what did I stop you for? What do you mean what I stopped you for? You didn't know you ran that stoplight? And then you go in. And then he gets a little more mad. He goes in some more. And then you straight out start yelling. And then he tells you to get out the car. And then all of a sudden the situation continues to escalate. Then all of a sudden on the other side, they're saying, are you high? And you're like, I'm not on anything. And then they're like, the passenger, give me your ID. Because they're going to say that they suspected illegal activity. Now you get the passenger involved. Now the passenger has to give the ID because you seem like you're high. by being overly aggressive. You might not be high at all, but you were overly aggressive. So now you seem like you're high. Now they need to get the passenger's ID. You keep going, they're going to end up searching that car legally because they expect illegal activity. You see how that can spiral into nothing when really it's just you came across. That's how that whole thing started to spiral. Because even if it's a bad cop, you just gave him a reason to continue down the path that he was trying to continue down in the first place. So when you said, "Would you stop me for?" you're already letting me know you probably said that and it started, and that's where it was going from there. If you understand what I'm saying. And I'm not getting on you like in a bad way. I'm sure it makes sense for you because I do understand, especially if you've been through a lot. That you're just like, oh my God, again? Really? I'm trying to get home from work and here you are stopping me for nothing. So I get it. I'm not, insensitive to what you're saying. But I'm just saying this is how it can get out of control. You've got to kind of do everything that you can to sort of remember that you're not on the side of the law when you get stopped. At that moment. This is not to say that you're doing anything. It's just say at that moment you're not. So you have to look at it that way and treat it that way to get yourself through that situation safely, if not anything else. Right? Everybody out of the situation safely. Right? All right, there's a lot. Oh, that just sparked a whole bunch of stuff. I appreciate you guys. Let's go over questions, comments. You're glad that I understand. What are you from the police point of view or from? Oh, showing all sides. Oh, you. Yeah, because it's easy for a person on the outside to sort of give information from people that are there, don't often see, and that's why this is part of information because it's showing you before you get in that situation what's happening in that situation. Because once you're in it, if you don't have tools to operate in that, it's going to come out like it has been traditionally been coming out. Everybody's emotions and feelings sort of being poured into this one incident. And people getting hurt, killed, or, anything else, arrested, for example. And just, if I feel like if people know a little bit more, then it's probably going to be a little bit better. Yeah, so Karens don't generally think, they don't think they should be arrested. It doesn't matter what they're doing or saying. So I use that as the example because it's moment after moment after moment. We've all seen them. A Karen will be going all in on a police officer as if she has the right to be disrespectful to him because he doesn't have the right to tell her anything. And I mean, they try to keep their cool just like the rest of us do when you're dealing with a person like that. But I mean, if you're belligerent and you're yelling and you're pointing and you're pushing and you're snatching stuff, and after a while you're just going to be like, listen, you're going to get arrested. I need you to stop. And then you can proceed to tell them, no, I'm not going to do it. Then they arrest you. I mean, you're not above being arrested if you're treating people disrespectfully. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to even assume that. I can be disrespectful and, get treated well because I say so. So that's why you're seeing, in your opinion, more of them getting arrested nowadays. It's not that they weren't getting arrested anyway. It's just, it's so out of control at this point. You can't just be disrespectful like that and expect a good outcome. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, it's not just Karens. It's a lot of people just in general. But, I've seen that happen a lot more than usual just because I guess we're highlighting it more. We get to see it more, maybe. Maybe it was already happening after a while. After they started getting exposed, I guess people started recognizing the behaviors, I guess. So that includes police officers. You kind of don't have to put up with it if you don't want to. Type of thing. All right, you guys, we have gone we have talked, we have given some clues. I hope I've given you some sort of insights, maybe some answers to some of the questions that you might have had regarding these types of stops, regarding things that you thought you knew, and then maybe gave you some solid information. Because again, I covered most of those with the cases so that you can see that that's a solid reasoning. But I also sought to make sure you know how to apply it. This is the most important part to me. Most important. I really need people to not just know what to do and what not to do, but also when and where to apply it. That becomes more important, especially when you're dealing in a situation that can get very volatile or become very dangerous, that you know how to apply it. You know what I mean? And when, and I always say at the beginning of the conversation, the beginning of any conversation, where the person has approached you, your best bet is to be quiet. Let them speak. Let them get out what they need to say and then respond if you have to. If you can. If you've been smoking weed and you've been driving and you know you've been smoking weed and been driving and it's illegal, you can be quiet probably the entire time. If it's bad enough where you're just messed up, you're on some crack too, or I don't know, I'm making stuff up. But if you're on, something that's going to make that situation more volatile, then you're going to be silent the entire time. Just quiet. You know what I mean? Just announce that that's what you're going to do and then leave it at that. But it's a lot harder to do that when you're on something. So it can spiral, but hopefully if somebody hears this and they remind themselves of that at the time, that they'll just opt to be quiet. Because that's probably going to work better for you, especially if you're in a situation where, you're being stopped by somebody that's already very volatile. Or just a situation can get volatile. You don't want to get volatile yourself. Maybe you're in a place where, you hate police officers. You're high on top of hating police officers. You didn't have 4 or 5 drinks, so you're over the limit. You've been speeding, and he had to stop you. You don't know you were speeding, and you think that you just got stopped. And you're not going to know all that happened until retrospect because your mind is not really where it should be. So just be quiet. Even if you think it's unfair, just be quiet. So that was why I saved the best for last, because that's probably the most important to remind yourself to do in certain cases, especially the more difficult it is for you to do it, the more you should know that you need to do it. All right. Thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys all for being here. I guess I'll, if you can hear this, I'll see you guys next time.